also have, which I think we should start with, the clip of the interview at Merv Griffin and my mom. So I think we're going to roll with that to introduce you to Shelley and my mother and how they were together. I think it's fascinating.
10 years after What's the Matter with Helen.
Okay, 10 years. How many years?
About 10 years.
Wow, okay. Well, they both remember it well. Hit it.
Okay.
Hello, Skinny.
Hiya, honey.
That really steams Shelley. Do you have that feeling?
Ticks her off, man, that I've kept these things all in, I tell you. well, no, these
She's a
things
dancer.
go well.
You're a dancer. That's it.
That's
Now,
still not
Shelley
the
likes
excuse,
to
Shelley.
eat, dear.
I know.
We made a film together. Well, What's the Matter with Helen?
And the
She was
rumors that
wonderful.
came out of that set were incredible.
They
You
were
were
all
almost true.
Well, I nicknamed Shelley Killer because in the film, at the end of the film, she was supposed to kill me. But the problem was that she sort of got so in, the method school with
Yeah.
Shelley is, the method. So when she gets into the method, I mean, forget about it. You lose Shelley Winters, she's just banana cake. She's the character she's playing. So right away, I knew she was going to kill me from the start.
Well, I had that knife in my
I know
hand.
you did.
A rubber dagger.
No, it's supposed to be
real one.
rubber, but
Yeah.
she decided she really didn't like me.
No, that's not true.
Yes, and I had to check that knife every day. I checked that.
Did you go over
is
to
it
get
the
it?
rubber knife or is it the real knife? You scared me to death, you crazy thing. It's good to see you.
Nice
good
to see you,
I
darling.
watched you backstage. Wait. Oh, I was watching you
Did I
backstage,
look
Shelley.
fat? Never
No.
mind about looking
Oh,
fat.
Shelley, will you forget?
No, Shelley, you were talking about your list of all your lovers, so I made...
Not lovers,
No,
they're
well,
not all my lovers.
well, your people that you
Have stories with.
had a moment of pleasure with. This is my list.
It's probably invisible ink.
Yeah, she does great imitations, terrible ones of me.
Well, oh no, I do. Anyway.
Does Shelley? Do Shelley sitting right next to
I
you?
have to get undressed.
You gotta go to Broadway. And she said, Broadway? I've just only been at Culver City and Burbank. Culver City is where MGM, and I said, you have to find something that you want to do and do it on Broadway. And she did, and she was sensational.
But Debbie's been driving the Gabor sisters crazy for years.
That is all right, darling. They probably, no, only Van has a long...
Imitate, let me see you imitate me. Let me see.
Let me see you imitate me, Debbie. Let me see. Why don't you just go and imitate me, Debbie? I don't talk like that.
We were at a party once, and she was really...
Well, I really got on her, though, I must say. We were really kidding around. That was during the picture.
That was funny.
So that was very personal.
How big a show are you taking back into the...
Shelley likes very young, macho guys, big studs, She really liked those kind of guys.
That was
And,
8 years ago. But nothing's changed.
They're over the hill now.
And what's new? The boy still looks the same as you. You know you like those guys.
Yes.
Ooh,
What's wrong with it?
Well, there's nothing. I don't know. I'd be frightened.
I
to
mean, if
death.
you see a man 60 years old with a girl 30 or 25, you don't feel shocked, do you?
Oh, I think you should do whatever you want to, Shelley. It's worked so far, and you look great.
Right. It's gotten you a hit book, so what the heck?
Her skin is so clear, and her books are selling. I mean, what?
We'll come back. Debbie Reynolds and Shelley Winters.
Jeez. Okay.
That just brings me back to such a fantastic time that I wish we were at again. That's all I'm saying. I want to introduce our first guest of the new Cat and Todd live show. He is a really great friend. We met, actually, he interviewed us for his amazing YouTube channel called DAZE, that's D-A-Z-E, with Jordan the Lion. It's got tons of fans, and of course we always want tons more, so you got to check out his page, DAZE with Jordan the Lion. He does some of the greatest videos about old Hollywood and old musicians, the greats, the iconic greats, some obscure, he's got some stuff coming up that I'm really looking forward to seeing. But he's got such a wonderful, huge following, and so I just want to bring him in because his Shelley Winters story, I think, trumps all. I mean, not just stories.
What did
because
she do to him?
What did she, that's what I'm starting to
All right,
wonder
there
after
he is.
seeing
I
that.
put him in
Ladies
the
and
wide shot.
gentlemen,
Jordan.
Jordan the Lion.
We're going to have to... you can,
That's yours, I think.
yeah,
Wait.
but we're going to have to move it up. He's too tall. So
Here,
stay
I'll-
on Cat for a second.
Okay.
I'll move it.
He's going to move
Look
that
at the
camera
size
up. We're
of
going
that
to
guy.
show
He's
the
so
folks
huge.
at home how it's done.
know.
Also,
Why
I
is the
think
door
Channing
wide
left
open?
the door
We
open,
can't- we're gonna
and
get dying here.
and so the door is wide open in the back. There you go. We're good. So whenever the door is open and it's 120 outside and 66
There he
in
is. Now
here,
we've
yes,
got
it's
Without chopping his
I
head
do
in
it all the
half.
time. All right, Jordan is here in the house. Everybody give him a big heart for Jordan Lee. Jordan the Lion. Amazing. Okay, so we'll get your camera on you now. There you go.
Yeah.
They see, there you are. You can see, and that's your camera right there.
Well,
Okay.
and we have a group shot. if
And we
you can
have-
look
and
at the
then we have a
monitor.
group shot,
But
of
we,
course.
we are prepared.
This is our first guest, an in-house guest.
No, you.
No,
well,
no, of the new
of
Cat
the
and
new,
Todd. Yes.
For sure. Yeah, you are christening the
You
new
are
scene here.
the
This is a
new.
great way to do it too, these stories.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is maybe like one of those things nobody really talks about is this kind of stuff, like the method acting things nowadays. Because nobody acts, I don't really think anymore.
Well, they still have obviously different ways to train people for acting. There's a lot of different ways, but I don't know if anybody's as serious as they were back then. Where, we're like literally you're playing a killer, so you go out and kill somebody.
Yeah, and it happened to her. I mean, one of her stories to me was making a movie with Jack Palance, him being so into the method that he was choking her to death, and that she's yelling "cut," and they think that she's messing around, and she's dying, literally
Oh,
almost dying.
it's not. It has not surprised me. Yeah, well, that's a good point. Without a
Let me
mic,
take a peek. Yes,
You got a green light.
it's on.
Well, let me leave it on you guys. I'll go check the.
Okay,
place
so
down there.
Jordan and I will.
No, I can do it from back here.
Oh, okay. So Ryan's saying that we can't hear Jordan, so there is a glitch with that, and we will bring
Jordan,
him
talk
back.
to me.
So basically,
Are
what
we
you
hearing it a little bit better now?
I'm going to just check what everybody says. These are the bugs you have
ahead
to
and
be
talk.
on the air to work out. Go ahead, Jordan.
Okay, yeah, the check.
Yeah, I
Can you
mean,
hear it a little bit better in this now?
Let's see.
Online
what
in
is
comments,
what does
or-
everybody say?
It's super low.
It's not super low. I just raised it.
No,
considerably.
Ryan just
I'll
told
keep
me
talking and then-
it's super low compared to us.
Don't worry, everyone, it'll be worth it.
That's right. This is the glitchiest show we've had yet. Okay, so
Is it?
better. Marcia Dodge says better. Roy Wagner says no.
Once we get a good tone, I can tell you how
I
I ended
got
up
the
meeting
best-
Shelley and
A bit better.
Soft voice, so to
No.
Oh, is that?
they just turn their volume up.
They're
No, I'm
saying
kidding.
he sounds far away, and so it's I don't know.
far away.
Let's see. Let's put
Should we give him the hand
microphone as
mic?
far-
No, I'm looking at it back there. It's got to be fine.
Is it okay now?
Well, it is sort
They
of.
can
I
hear
just
him
moved the
now.
microphone up.
It was loud. I don't know how to get any louder. I mean,
It's
louder than your
merely
mic.
passable, they said. That's what Ryan is saying. So we just want to
Uh-oh.
make sure people can hear him because he's going to be the meat and potatoes of this segment.
Okay.
Okay.
It's up.
He sounds distant, people are saying. So we
Why don't you just?
Yeah, I mean, I can double check, make sure it's.
No, it's on.
not
I'm looking at the
one-
meters. You're
okay.
not distance. We're pinning. It can't get any louder without blowing up the
okay.
whole server.
Okay, so it's good enough.
It's
Okay.
more than good.
All right. All right, so how did you meet Shelley Winters?
I had a job. I was basically I was in Los Angeles to be in a band, and I had a band, and we were recording an album. So I got a day job so that I could have my nights free for the band.
Right.
And that job, I was a huge Andy Kaufman fan, so I got a job at Jerry's Famous Deli. And so I was a delivery guy at Jerry's, and one day an order comes in for a woman, and it's at the Beverly Hills Rehabilitation Hospital. And when I get there, the name on the outside of the door said Shelley Winters. And I said, no, it couldn't be. And I go in there, and I had long blonde hair that they had me put in a ponytail for work. And as soon as I walked in, she said, honey, you have the most beautiful color of hair I've ever seen. Are you an actor? And I said, no. And she starts talking to me for a little bit, just asking me questions. And then after about 3 minutes, she says, well, whatever you're doing with your life, you're wasting your time if you're not an entertainer. I'm an acting teacher, and I know what I'm talking about. And I said, I know who you are. She said, you don't really know who I said, no, I saw you in Roseanne. She said, that doesn't count. Watch my real movies. And so we talked for a little bit, and then I had to leave, and she said, I get really bored here. Will you come back and keep me company while I'm in the hospital if you have time? And so I did, And every time I came back, she would just tell me stories and then go, are you reading my book? Have you read my books? So then I just started reading her books, and every time I'd come over, I'd ask her about what we were talking, what it was in the book, and then she would tell me crazier stories. Like, because you brought up the Poseidon Adventure, one of the things she said was, did I ever tell you how I tried to kill Gene Hackman when we made that movie? I said, no. And she said, well, I was supposed to be top billed, and his agent fought and cried and whined, and then they said he was going to be top bill. And she said, and that really pissed me off. She said, and then every time I had a scene, he somehow talked the director into listening to his idea, which always made him somehow get to take the high part of the scene. And she said, so when we were originally going to do the scene where he saves me, he wasn't supposed to save me. I was supposed to save the people in the water. And he went up and he said, no, don't you think it'd be more heroic if I did it? And she said, that was the last straw. I said, that's it. When we film this thing, I'm going to try and kill him. So she said, we start filming the thing, and when he was pulling me up, I pulled him down. And she said, and he fought with me and got loose and then yelled, cut. And the director said, what's the matter? He goes, this crazy tried to kill me. And she said, that's right, I did. Now quit trying to take all of my scenes.
Now that is hardcore. You're gonna kill somebody over the scene. I mean, I've heard this.
Trying to send a message,
but,
I think.
Actors, I've heard this my whole life. So-and-so was tried to steal my scene.
She said I was a bigger actor than him.
But it's
I'll
not
say.
uncommon that an actor would whine about another actor upstaging them. Now, in some cases, it's their own damn fault. Other times, there are people like heavyweight actors that are gonna, even if they're hardly doing anything, they're gonna steal the scene.
Yeah.
They actually know how to do it without being overt like that. They can, like Spencer
Brando.
Tracy used to steal scenes by saying nothing. Everybody was like staring at him, waiting for something to happen, and instead of watching the people who were talking, because they were expecting something. So like the magnetism that a particular star can have. But yeah, I can see how that would be distressing. But I'm glad she saved those people because I love that scene.
I do too.
When she becomes, the saves everybody in the water, I think that was pretty cool. Remember, she had her little swim medal. So it's a cool scene, no question.
Well, so how long so she got out of the hospital and your relationship with her continued?
Yeah, I kind of helped her get out. She got so comfortable being at the hospital and being the most famous person there other than, what's his name? Sid, the comedian Sid.
Sid Caesar?
Sid Caesar was there
Okay,
at the same
yeah.
time as her. Other than that, everybody loved her. So she became the big fish in a small pond. She didn't want to leave. So we had to finally go, hey, if you want to have a birthday party.
It's hitting your neck now, so we're going to,
Oh.
we know that ain't going to work. Okay.
So they kind of talked her into wanting to have a birthday party so all of her friends could come see her. And they said the only way you can do it is to get out of the hospital. So she got motivated to walk again. And then once she got out, she just really, everybody that she knew was pretty much too old to come visit. They moved away and she didn't have many friends. So I would go there. And again, what are you doing? What's with your life? She had such a young mind that she was really into that. She was like, let me help you. Let me be your teacher. Let me help you get your
That's
career
sweet.
started the right way, because you'll mess it up if you do it the wrong way.
You could tell even in that Merv interview that she's, and even Debbie and her are at that point, years later, they're fun, having some fun together. My mother, though, had a whole nother experience with her, but we're gonna let we want to let him finish his stories, Kat.
I mean, I've met a lot of people that knew her and things, or met her and said, man, she was so mean. But I just was lucky that I never got any of that. She always looked at me like a son, and so because of that, she always kind of, I guess all that anger went out of her because she knew I wasn't there for any other reason than I liked her. I wasn't there for a free meal like a lot of people would come around to get that free lunch when she was going out to lunch.
Really?
Everybody.
So that's a real thing.
Oh, big time, because every day she went to the Silver Spoon. And that was kind of an old Hollywood hangout, and everybody knew her. So her Hollywood friends that really didn't have much money and were living off of their actors' equity, they would all of a sudden show up at lunchtime, or they would come visit her at 5 minutes till she was leaving. Oh, are you going to lunch now? Okay. Oh, well, yeah, I'll go with you. That'd be great. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the day, nobody cared. So I worked, and I basically got off work when she was done eating lunch. So I'd come over and hang out for an hour or two. I bought her first Blu-ray player, like DVD player. She couldn't believe it. She was like, she kind of had a little bit of, they found out she had a cyst on her brainstem. So occasionally she would have a lapse in memory. And one day when I brought this thing over, she's like, "What are you doing? They're gonna throw you in jail. How did you get that movie?" She like couldn't believe that I could buy her movies in stores. So then I would bring the movies over, and she would request the movie. It was always something she was in. It was like a Place in the Sun or something.
Had to go that way.
And this is the best. Every time in her movies, she always like got injured or almost died or did die. But when you watch the movies with her, she'd happily watch the movie until that scene came, and then she'd say, "Okay, you can turn it off now."
Oh, before she died.
Yeah, never would watch the death
That's
scenes.
interesting.
Never would watch it.
I relate to that because when my mother in this movie gets killed by her, I couldn't watch it as the son of. I could not watch that scene. Didn't watch it. Refused.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Charlotte's Web. When my mother was a spider and was dying, I couldn't handle that as a kid. I just didn't want. I did not want to see it. So I mean, it's interesting that she would have chosen that. Now, Place in the Sun, to me, is unbelievably great movie, and she in that movie plays this kind of pathetic character who gets pregnant by.
Oh, we just watched that not too long
Yeah.
ago.
Oh, yeah, she had some great stories about that. you
Well,
know.
but like he's playing. I mean, the role that that Montgomery Clift is playing is amazing. I mean, everybody is off the charts in that movie.
She didn't, obviously, I'm sure you know this story, but a lot of people don't. They didn't want to even audition her for that. She was a cheesecake. She was the
Now, do you have a
beautiful
still of
blonde.
her, Seth? Do you have that cool still of her?
She-
We have a picture of her
Yeah.
actually before that. 'Cause
Yeah, like
there
the
was-
late 40s.
Yeah, because she was a bombshell.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean buxom.
Yeah.
But not like she became.
Yeah, but she was always like the pretty
that?
girl in the movie.
Yeah. Go. You got
Like
it.
Ronald Coleman.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
with
There.
Ronald
Look at that.
That's look
so
at
that's
that.
what they saw her as, and she said, "No, I want to do a real movie. Let me be in a real movie." And they said no. So what she did was she contacted George Stevens and said, "Just meet with me." And then she borrowed her sister, who was a nurse, borrowed all of her normal street clothes, dyed her hair brown. She was making a movie at this time and wasn't supposed to dye her hair, but she wanted it so bad. And then she showed up where they were going to meet and sat across the room and just sat like this. And she said about 20 minutes, George Stevens sat there and waited, looked at his watch. And then finally, when he got up to leave, she said, "Mr. Stevens," she said, he turned around and looked at her and said, "Shelley, if I put you in this part, can I photograph you looking like that?" And she said, "If you put me in this part, you can photograph me however you want." And she said they bought all of my sister's clothes that I was wearing that day and all of my sister Blanche's clothes, and that became my wardrobe for the movie.
Oh my!
That's how my mother approached parts too. She would get my grandmother's clothes when she did Liberace's mother in Behind the Candelabra. But even long before that, my mother would
Dress the part.
or
Yeah.
she'd hire Morton Hack. Now we got to tell the Morton Hack story, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to tell it?
No,
the
you
story?
go ahead.
Well, so Morton Hack is, as you probably know, the guy that designed the costumes for Molly Brown. He did a spectacular job. I mean, that red feather dress of my mother's is one of my favorite costumes we have. So when my mother decided to do this movie, What's the Matter with Helen, she's one of the producers of the film. We had quite a bit of money in those days, or we thought we did. And it was being dwindled away by Harry Carl as all this was going on. But she became a producer in this thing. She decided to hire Shelley Winters because she wanted the role of sort of a sister that's going crazy. And she thought Shelley was typecast for that in her mind. But she decided, I'm doing like a period piece. Like my mother's playing a part like a Jean Harlow kind of part. So she really needed a legit costume designer that could do real fantastic costume designs, not just anybody. So she brought Morton Hack in to do the costumes in this movie, and he, did an amazing job on her costumes, but it got into a situation with Shelley, and Shelley didn't like anything that he was doing and said that everything you're making for her, meaning my mother, makes her look thin, and I don't look thin in any of my costumes. I mean, I don't understand what you're doing. And she'd take off the clothes. In fact, on the set, there's a story where she literally takes all her clothes off in protest. of how she hated the costume.
Doesn't surprise me.
Morton Hack quit the movie because of her and never made another movie again. Retired from show business. So if you want to know what effect Shelley Winters can have on people, that is pretty damn intense. Because this is a guy that worked for MGA forever, you know. But I mean, obviously the industry was shifting.
Yes.
You know, MGM had gone under and all of that, and so here we were in an independent production. But he loved my mother, but man, couldn't handle it. I mean, imagine somebody at that point who's clearly like what 175, 180, right?
Yeah.
That's right. My mother's 105. And you're trying to tell the costume designer, I want to look like her, and you're sabotaging me. You make me look fat.
Yeah.
And you know, and then he's like, well, honey, you know, you are fat.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't fix it with a sewing needle.
Well, you know that all came about from the Diary of Anne Frank, that she gained all that weight and just never could lose it. Now, she told me a really funny story. She said, you know, I used to go to fat farms. And she said, I made Diane Ladd go to a fat farm with me one time, and they give you really strict portions and everything. She said, but after like 2 days, I couldn't take it, so I started sneaking out to a diner down the street and eating waffles and pancakes and stuff. She said,
That's why it's hard.
One night, she's sitting there eating, and Diane Ladd comes walking in and goes, what are you doing? She said, shut up and sit down and eat.
You know, I've always been suspicious. Now, for her, I would be very suspicious. But, you know, when an actor says, yeah, I put all this weight on because of a movie or because of a part I had to play, and we don't really know the whole story.
Well, that one we kind of do because, you know, we know the story of Anne Frank. She has to lose 50 or 60 pounds from giving her food to her family.
Right.
So that was that. But, I mean, she wasn't quite old. I wouldn't, you know, she was like 40 or 41. That's still an age where you can still lose it, I would think. But she had this gift of being
40,
able.
No, he's right. At 40 and 41, I could still lose weight pretty quick at that age, but you can also put it back on pretty quick. Now, the reason he said that is because I think Shelley Winters said that she put all that weight on for the Poseidon Adventure.
Yes, she did.
Well, that she
That
might
was
have
far
said, but I know that
You're right.
Anne Frank was a different story.
Way earlier, but I always, she's right. So I remember her saying, you know, yeah, like as if she needed to be heavy for the part in the Poseidon Adventure. I mean, that I always laughed when I heard that. And you know, my mom, hey, by the way, just for future understanding, do we have the Do It Debbie's Way thing? Yeah. Oh, okay. So we got a treat. When it's time,
Yeah.
we do have her doing my mom's exercise
Video.
with her.
Oh, that's awesome. I think I may have seen like a clip of that or
It's
something.
really-
But I would love to see that.
Well, let's go ahead
You know,
and
she
roll
really
it, and
was,
we
like,
can come
to me-
back.
To me,
let's talk
unbelievably
about it.
nice. I mean,
Oh,
if
yeah.
I found things, she would just tell me, hey, go in my closet and see what's in there. And I remember one day going in there because she wanted something to wear for New Year's. She was going to Dan Tana's for New Year's, like 85 years old, and this is like the first time she'd really gone out in a long time. And I go in there, I'm looking through all the stuff, and I go, come out with this oxidized, busted up Emmy Award. And I said, what's this? And she said, I think I got mad and threw it. You can put that back in there. But I found like boxes of art.
But she
every
won
8
2
by
Oscars.
10. Yeah,
I
every
mean-
8 by 10 she ever had taken her whole career was in there.
Where'd all that go, man?
I don't know, but one day in her bookcase, I pulled out a book and I started looking through it and I go, what is this? The pages are underlined. She said, oh, that's when I did A Streetcar Named Desire on Broadway. And she said, go ahead and see if you can put the pages back in order. Well, I started looking through it and it's signed to Shelley, Love Tennessee, my heart's dearest hearts. And when I go to give it back to her, she said, no, just keep it. They'll sell it when I die. I'd rather you have it. And then she said, that was my script. All those bobby pinned pages, that's how I'd study. So pages were underlined and highlighted and bobby pinned.
So she studied through the book.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have a signed script
I have
by
that.
Tennessee Williams.
And she wrote a
That's pretty
little
awesome.
script about her life when Marilyn Monroe and her shared an apartment. And I found that, and same deal. She said, take it because it'll just get sold when I pass. I'd rather you have it. So I have that also.
Did she not
Oh,
have
wow.
any family or something? Why would she?
She did. She has a daughter, but they had a rough relationship. Yeah, it was kind of.
Coat hangers and axes?
It was more like, the way she described it was, I made money so my daughter could have anything she wanted in life, and she got the best education, and now she runs a hospital and everything and hates me for not being around. And that's the way she kind of felt.
Now, I can just tell you, I think you knew her better than I did at that point. But I was relatively young when they were making What's the Matter with Helen. And I can tell you that my impression as a young boy, I had no preconceived notions about her at all. I'd seen her in some of the older movies. But when I saw what was going on that set and the way she was behaving, I had never seen anything like it in my life. And even as a young boy, I perceived it as being outrageous behavior. Now, I was not there for the Morton Hack sequence.
Yeah, but you're talking about What's the Matter with Helen.
What's the Matter with Helen?
Well, she was playing a psychotic, murderous, character.
And she admittedly would say it would take sometimes a long time to get out of that character. Because she was Stanislavski to a T. Her acting teacher, she was telling me when she first came to Hollywood, because she couldn't get real parts, she said, somebody put me in touch with Charles Lawton, and Charles became my teacher, and his rule was, if you're not on set, you're here with me. And she said it was because of studying with him that he said, you have to start turning down this stuff or you're never gonna get a real part. You have to start saying no when they ask you to do beautiful women parts and know that you're better than that. And so she credited him. So you're coming from somebody who was Charles Lawton trained, which was very method.
Charles Lawton is, in my opinion, the finest character actor ever.
I would agree.
Ever. When he plays Henry VIII or he plays
Rembrandt.
When he plays Bligh.
Mutiny on the Bounty with Clark Gable.
He was the better Bligh by far.
By far.
The guy was. Forget the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Obviously, that's an extreme thing, but the guy was unbelievable. But for some reason.
Shelley made the movie with him and Robert Mitchum, of course.
Yes.
And that was another one. I go, when I watched that gave me the creeps watching her die. In that car, drowning underwater, and
Night of the Hunter.
Yes.
Night of the Hunter. Yeah, that is another movie I love, and I also love the end. It was Lillian Gish, I believe, who's got the shotgun and shoots him.
Yes.
I love that. She's leaning on the everlasting love.
Oh,
and he's creeping around the house, trying to come in to get the kids. It's so freaky scary. That movie is brilliant. But she gets killed off early, but again, playing that same kind of place in the sun kind of role.
Naive. Kind of the naive in love.
A victim. She ends up a victim, yeah.
But I don't, it's an interesting contrast to your experience, because I was there the night they took my mother away in a gurney, having a nervous breakdown on the set. And it was because Shelley refused to do certain things. Like the director was going absolutely nuts. Curtis Harrington was going nuts, and he was trying, all the actors were trying to get her to get into it, but if everything didn't go a certain way to her, and what had happened is there were people laughing. So in between a break, my mother, as you well know, loved to sort of tell jokes and cut it up. So she'd be with the crew, and they're eating, having a snack, and there's laughter. Now, this is a serious scene about to be shot, maybe even the killing scene. I don't know what scene it was.
Yeah.
But Shelley went psycho. You can't laugh on this set. She went off the charts. Curtis Harrington came running over and was like, hey, it's no big deal. Listen, no one's even laughing anymore. Everybody's gone quiet for you. We don't want to blow your... They were all sucking up to her because it was so difficult. I understand if you're trying to do a dramatic scene about killing somebody or losing your mind, maybe you wouldn't want people laughing. I could sort of say it, but on the other hand, that's why we hire actors.
Well,
right.
When you're talking to me at night and I don't answer you, and you have to snap me out of it, because I've learned to tune people out so well, because being on a soap opera set and playing a character that is high-pitched like that, and she cried a lot, and she was just incredibly emotional, and we'd be on a break, and everyone's laughing and doing all that. So rather than me getting all upset about it, I just learned to kind of turn the volume of the room off so that I would be in my own world. But I guess she
Is that
didn't.
going to be on my epitaph? I was tuned out.
Well, I can tune people out brilliantly because of it. So that's why sometimes
I would rather look as somebody that has to pay the bill for making movies. I would rather hire actors that can do that, because what you don't want is these disruptions and these temperamental fits. Now, the problem is
Now, what if she's in character,
right?
acting as her character, responding to, that's what I
Well,
wonder.
it is
Is that why people like kind of
Sure.
excuse it and kept hiring her, because it's going, hey, my character would yell at you for
I can tell
laughing
you why
right
they
now.
hired her.
Yeah.
Because she was freaking brilliant, and she had 2 Oscars and who knows what else stuffed in the closet.
Yep.
But the reality is she was flipping brilliant. She was amazing. So you hire her for that. But you also know there's going to be a price to be paid. There's a ticket. Something comes
There's a
with the
receipt.
lunch.
There's
Yes,
there's a
receipt for
check that comes with that
free
meal.
lunch.
And I'll tell you, my mother learned that lesson the hard way. She really almost replaced her in the movie. My mother actually talked to the producers and with her and said, look, we have to consider, and we may never get this movie done. And they said, we've already shot too much. You can't do it. You don't have the budget. It would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace her. And so they sucked it up. But there's a famous story my mother writes about with Shelley, and we were there. Carrie and I were there. My uncle was doing the makeup on this movie,
Right.
Bill Reynolds.
Uncle Bill.
And so when she first collapsed under the pressure as a producer and trying to star in the thing. Now, this is something that I always like to go over. When you see somebody like Robert Redford or Clint Eastwood or something, and you see that they've written, they've directed, they've produced, whatever, they've done everything, and they star in the movie. Very, very difficult and very unique talent to be able to do all of that and to switch things on and off, change hats,
Ron
as it
Howard,
were.
yeah.
It's unbelievably, and my mother was under the illusion and wanted to try it, and it didn't go well. She could have picked an easier person to work with, but it went really bad. She never did it again after that. She was like, that's it. I do not want to be in that position. I want somebody else who can go fight with the actors if they're misbehaving and whatever. Because she just like, I just can't do it. So Shelley Winters is single-handedly responsible for killing those ambitions.
Well,
in my
despite
mom.
her experience, what was the reception of the film?
Well,
Or her perception? Did she enjoy the film?
the movie
finished
is
product?
really good.
Yeah.
And she should have actually had some recognition from it, but Filmways distributed the film, and I don't think they knew what to do with this movie exactly, and it never really got a good run. This happens a lot in Hollywood. And some movies come back later, and they recover from the lack of understanding by a publicity department. If a studio doesn't quite know what to do, you're in trouble, man, if they don't want to get behind it and market it a certain way. So this movie, I think, it made money, but this movie is actually a really tight little, scary little movie, and it's fun. And my
I always
mother's
kind of
really
put it
good
in
at
that
it.
category with whatever happened to Baby Jane. That's why I was wondering if it was received by the same crowd, or if it was
I
ever
think it
compared
should.
to that,
I mean,
or.
Look, all I can tell you is I would like to just say go out and buy the DVD, because we do get a little kickback on this. But the truth is I'd like to see it do well, because my mother's really good. You saw that clip. We'll run it again at the end, the teaser.
Yeah.
She's strong in it, really strong.
Yeah.
Now, of course, she's playing a person that has a dance school, and at that point, she didn't have the dance school yet. But she's playing a girl that's teaching kids to dance, and she is doing what she just loves to do, and she's tapping, and she's got the platinum blonde Jean
She's
Harlow
got
look.
Agnes there too. I love that Agnes is in this, knowing their relationship.
You do that. You if you can.
Yeah.
Sidney Gilleroff did the hair. Now Sidney Gilleroff did Jean Harlow's hair. So we're going to do a Jean Harlow look. Who are you going to call?
Yeah, no
Ghostbusters.
Oh, she did look exactly like that. That's true.
Oh, that's what he did. So
I
she had all her friends. If you think about it, that's what the best people.
That's why I'm shocked she picked Shelley and not a friend that she could trust to be in and out of character.
But you know what? Who are you going to call? Greer Garson or something? I mean,
Elizabeth Taylor?
Well, yeah.
Whatever,
that would've
because
been-
you think of her and
Liz
Richard
could have done
Burton
it.
doing Who's Afraid of Virginia
Yep,
Woolf, and you
yep.
go, she probably would have been good.
Well, but better yet, if you think about it, when Liz is going crazy in Raintree County.
Oh yeah.
See, now that's the kind
Monty
of thing.
Clift again.
But there's Montgomery. But you're talking about that kind of a slow burnout where you're burning into insanity. And the way she unravels in that is very much what happens in this movie, is she starts to slowly unravel. Liz could have done it, but again, that would have been an interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
because she could have obviously done. But it does take that kind of an actress. Now, Liz, as you know, is one of those people that has that amazing range.
Yeah.
Very few actors can 1 minute be playing Cleopatra, another minute freaking out in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, or Night of the Iguana, or those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
But I really found when I knew Liz later that that was her personality. There was a real component of her personality.
Like a bipolar.
Well, I wouldn't call it necessarily bipolar, but it was a component of her personality to be that edgy, tough woman yelling at Richard Burton. I mean, she really did that, in my observation.
Yeah.
I got to see the show, and it emulated the movies
That's
so
true.
beautifully. But then there was another side of her that I didn't know till later, which is this really sweet, vulnerable person that just wanted a hug. I mean, and to be loved.
Are you talking about Elizabeth Taylor?
Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did we get lost?
No, it's just that there's a lot of names
A
floating
lot
around
of names.
here.
We're doing
Yeah.
big name dropping here. It's what we do here on this show.
I
Okay,
have-
speaking of that, let's run just for a laugh.
Oh yes, let's do that.
Seth, are you
for
ready?
Sure.
I'm ready. Now, did you did have
The book with you as well.
Well, I told all the stories. I
Okay.
memorized the stories.
You the script. You
I
did.
actually memorized the stories.
Is this in the height of the Jane Fonda aerobic craze?
Well,
So
this was
James-
called "Do
This
It
is-
Debbie's Way." and
This
it was
was-
Debbie's.
This sold over 1 million copies of this exercise.
Did she have her own studio, or was this just for?
This was shot on a soundstage. Actually, this was shot at Charlie Chaplin's soundstage.
Oh, I was
in
wondering
fact.
where they
Really?
shot
where
it.
we went to that.
And
birthday
notice
party.
that's the Debbie
Rocket.
letters in the back.
Play it. Yeah, there are the Debbie letters.
We're
There's
going to
her
have
and
to
Shelley.
talk over this.
Yeah, we will.
Before we all begin our first class.
I mean, Shelley's kind of the rebellious one in the class.
And Shelley, you know you love
See, look, I'm only doing this for Debbie. She has the T-shirt. Look at her in the background, wandering around, trying to lift
Trying
the
to make
leg.
it funny.
No, but she.
This is the lousiest exercise I ever had.
Now, this tape was hugely successful, second only to Jane Fonda.
3, 4, 5, 6.
Look at, won't even lift her leg.
Probably couldn't.
No, you're not trying. Come on, Shelley. Flex.
But it does represent.
Shelley, you're making me laugh.
This is truly how people would. You know, people are going to respond like this, if you know what I mean. They're going to. Not everybody's going to exercise that way. We've seen that. It's okay. Oh, we got to see this.
Down. 2, 3, 4. Now, that's all we have to do. Have you got it?
She won't even lay down.
Shelley, you'll love this. Get ready. Here we go. All right. I did this at the motel in the mountains. Come on now, drop it. You love
Okay.
It makes
All
you
right.
wonder what after her experience with Shelley on the movie, why she would ever want to do anything or.
There, you could tell, like on the show with Merv, though, you could tell that there's a thing going on there. They have mutual admiration and respect, and as much as she, you know, it's just like they're crazy, but they're lovable.
You love them anyway,
They're lovable,
yeah.
and there was a lovable side to her, and the fact that she took you under her
She
wing
was. She
shows
was
the quality
the nicest
of character.
person in the world.
And-
She used to call my job and she would say, like, hey, this is Shelley Winters. I'm having an affair with Jordan, your delivery driver. Can you send him out here? And then they'd come walking by, and all my managers knew her movies, and they go, Shelley Winters? Somebody said that they were Shelley Winters and called and asked for you. Do you really know? I go, yeah, I do know. Then she showed up there one day. She hadn't been out of the hospital in probably a month, and she forced them to bring her to Jerry's Famous Deli, and they're like, Shelley Winters is in the back and wants you to come join her? And I'm like, how do you know her? I was like, that. She thought that was fun. Like, that was a prank for her.
But you know what? You got to give her credit, because that is a quality character attribute, and I feel like you got to give her credit for that kind of stuff. There was another person that comes to mind about this, which is Jonathan Winters, who I got to know because of my mother. And Jonathan Winters, in some of his earlier movies, like The Russians Are Coming or It's a Mad, Mad World,
Yeah.
the guy is unbelievable. He's really fantastic. But what happened is the directors couldn't handle him. He was always going off. And so he was not an actor who you could control, and therefore it was difficult to let him work. And when I met him, he was pretty much out of work. The directors were like, oh, But like Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, all these people think he was a genius, period. And they all modeled a lot of what they did after him. Obviously, Robin Williams was a little nutty as well, but of course somehow had a harnessed capability where he was able to make all the movies he made. But Jonathan Winters was every bit as talented as like a Robin Williams. I went over to Jonathan Winters to a house one day, and my mother wanted him to do some project, and I had sort of pitched him on the project, and he looks over at my mother and he goes, "Oh, passionate." Like about the project, the way I pitched it to him. And I kind of laughed. And he goes, "Oh," he says, I want to do something for you. And I said, "Okay." So we're in his man cave. Now, it wasn't called a man cave in those days, but he had a room that was pretty good size, 20 by 20, 20 by 30. And there were shelves across the entire perimeter of the roof of this room. And there was hats, maybe 100 hats up there. Everything you could think of kind of hat. And he'd say, "Okay, pick a hat." And I was like, "Okay." So I think I picked like a pith helmet or something, and he goes over and he had a little stick, he take the thing down, he put it on, and he would just start doing a monologue. And it was like, you'd be like, like he's all off into it. Then he would ask you a question in the monologue, and whatever your response was would take the monologue to that place. What's the weather out right now? Well, it looked pretty nice to me. Well, on this day today, on a sunny day like this is how it was back in the days when we were in the desert in Sahara. Whatever, just off into another storyline. Then he'd ask my mom a question. And even my mother, who is not one to be completely mesmerized, would sit there and it was like her mouth was hanging open. She was just blown away. So there was an extraordinary gift there, but that same gift is what made him uncontrollable, and that's what reminds me of Shelley a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
She had this amazing gift and these great character things, but when she was in the middle of her intense acting workup, she just blew everybody out of the water, and that's what caused her to not work as much as she could have. She could have worked forever.
Yeah.
I have a question. How old were you when you met her and became friends with her?
Well, it was ironic. I was really close to my grandma. My grandmother unexpectedly passed away, and when I came back from her funeral, the first day back, I met Shelley, and Shelley became my grandmother.
Yes.
I was 23. She found out one of the days I was there that my birthday was the next day, but I didn't tell anybody. I never ever told people when my birthday was, and I get a phone call at work, and she says, "Hey, are you coming to visit me today?" I said, I wasn't planning on it, but I can. She said, "Yeah, you got to come here. I got to talk to you." So I go to the hospital, and she had her assistant go out, and she bought a film noir book, big, beautiful, thick book. She goes, "Look at page 236, and I open it up. There's this big picture of her and John Garfield, and she had put, "Happy birthday, Jordan. Happy 24th birthday. Thank you for coming into my life," and a card and stuff. And I go, man, like my own friends don't know my birthday is. Like people have known me for a long time.
Isn't
and
that
this
a
is
gift?
somebody who's famous, who cared enough to do this. Like that was meaningful. That was like.
Are you sure she wasn't just trying to get in your pants?
Well, she used to. I was telling Kat. She used to always tell me like, "Hey, if there's a girl, like an actress that you have the hots for, let me know, and we'll get you set up at a premiere. My manager will hook you up with her for a date at a premiere or something." So she was always thinking that way, but she loved to talk about relationships and stuff. If I would ever say like, "Did you ever sleep with William Holden?" She'd go right into the story.
Oh, yeah.
She'd start telling like, "Oh, every Christmas at the studio, if one of us were single, we'd meet up there." And she had a story for everybody. Clark Gable stories and all that, and she could remember it clear as day.
Did they get them all in the books, or was it no justice to it?
I think so. I think she pretty much did, because there were people that I would ask, and she didn't mind saying. The one thing that always shocked me though is when she told me that she discovered Robert De Niro, put him in his first play, got him his first agent, and then she had like a mix-up with someone where she thought they were talking about Robert De Niro, and they were talking about somebody they were working with just named Bobby. So she called his office and said, "Tell Bobby I need to talk to him. Tell him to call me right away." So he showed up at her house after like 20 years. And she called me at the restaurant and was like, "Hey, can you come today?" I said, "No, I got something." She goes, "You got to come here. Come right now." I said, "I can't. I'm not off for another hour and a half." When I finally get there, she goes, Robert De Niro is here today. He came to visit me. I wanted you to come because I've been telling you he's the most boring person in the world. You would have seen it today. She said, he doesn't have anything to talk about, but I appreciated him coming.
You know, I am not surprised to hear
That is
that
great.
after what I have seen in recent years.
She told me this. I said, what'd you guys talk about? She said, I told him, what are you doing? What are you picking these stupid movies for? And he said, Shelley, you know I just like to work. I have somebody that picks my movies. I just want to work. And she goes, well, fire him and hire me. I'll pick your movies. You don't need to do this analyze stuff. She didn't like those movies.
Oh, analyze this.
Yeah, she did not like those. So she gave him the business a little bit. But
Yeah, they were kind of
she
illegitimate.
put him in his first play called Memoirs of a Noisy Passenger. And there's actually like a playbill online you can find from it and everything. And she told me he was so good that somebody in the crowd started yelling at him. It was like, get your hands off her, get your hands off
they
her.
were caught up in it.
Got up and yeah, and she said he broke character. Maybe the one and only time he turned around and said, shut up. We're the actors, you're the audience. We talk, you listen.
He said that?
Yeah, and she said he just silenced the whole room.
I'll
and then
bet.
just like that went right back into
Funny that
character
he did
and nobody
that.
thought a
I
thing
think
of it.
I think he did that recently, just a couple of times, very recently,
Oh,
at
yeah.
a couple of public events.
Exactly.
Same kind of setup.
I was like, oh man, no, now I can't see your movies anymore because
Yeah.
you just acted out so bad. You know, it was.
But that was something that she said a lot. She would say like, most actors, if they dedicate themselves so much, they don't have a personality. In her mind, she said they don't.
That's
so,
interesting.
So she was a real character as a person just to talk to. But a lot of people that were actors that came to visit her bored her to death. She couldn't wait till they left from visiting her. Then she wanted to talk to a normal person that was interesting.
Well, that's why
and
she
fun.
liked my mom. You could tell they have a funny relationship because one thing about Shelley and my mother, it is a stark contrast in terms of their sexuality and everything. And my mother was still viewed as the more conservative, prude ingenue, and she was the voluptuary, you know, and had a reputation of being with men at her will, not unlike an Ava or Zsa Zsa Gabor or something like that. But my mother and her, they bantered. They were funny together. You got to admit that exercise stuff was funny stuff, you know.
Your mom was indeed, you know, like that, but she was anything but a prude. She was, I love to watch your mom flirt, even when she was in her late 70s, and you know.
Yeah, but there was no follow.
No. It was not flirting to get
That's
to
what
a
Shelley
point.
Kinda
was at the
flirting.
end.
It was just
she loved to flirt with
she
people,
just, but his mom was the same. Nothing to come of it. She didn't want anything to come of it, but she liked to also see people kind of get off kilter. Yeah,
She could
Throw them off.
manipulate people.
That's the
Yeah.
best kind of flirting.
it was very cute to watch.
Well, somebody
Yeah.
once said to me one day, we were out with her, we were out at lunch, and he goes, look at her. She's the last of the classic stars. He goes, you'll never see another person that lived the life that she lived where, you know, people really cared about seeing a celebrity, you know, and that the celebrity was actually like, you could see him and touch him and things like that. And so when people came up to her, they were gushing. They were like, you don't know how much you meant to me. And it was like, that was so cool to see for somebody who, other than that, really wasn't getting much attention from anyone, you know?
Yeah.
I
You
wish
don't
I had
realize how
known that.
lonely their life is.
That's
The
sad.
last thing she really did was what, Roseanne?
I think so.
Big thing, the
I
last-
mean, that was the last thing that I think she pretty much retired after that.
Yeah.
She might have done one other thing, but
When did she pass away?
she passed away in 2006.
And so your friendship started in what year?
I met her in 2004.
So 2 years, and were you around?
I
when-
I was at 2 birthday parties where Shirley Jones was there and Jane Russell. And
I call those the posse.
the craziest story though was her second birthday that I was at. I go over to the hors d'oeuvre table or whatever, and this is right after the trial and everything, and all of a sudden she had some bushes that separated her property from the sidewalk, and a head pops over the bushes, and it's Robert Blake with like a white head of hair, and he had just been acquitted maybe a month before, and there he is. Nobody knew he was coming. He wasn't, you know, somebody invited him, but not her, and there he is walking around the party, and all these phony old friends of Shelley's. Oh, Robert, how you doing? How's everything going? Not just acting like.
Nothing happened.
Yeah, so the next day I go, Shelley, did you have a good birthday? I didn't want to bother you that much because she had a table of people constantly coming up. So I said hi to her and took some photos early on and then left her be. The next day I go over and visit. I said, did you have a good night? And she said, yeah, but did you hear Robert Blake was there? And I said, I thought you invited him. I didn't invite him. I don't know who invited him.
That is
Martin
crazy.
Landau came to every birthday. The nicest guy
Well, that's
in the
the
world.
that's the right year.
So you were in her life when she passed.
Yeah, I was.
And when was the last time you saw her, and what did you
That's
talk
sad.
about?
I hadn't seen her in a week and a half, and I had stopped over there and nobody was there. And then 2 days later, I had a delivery at Cedar Sinai, and I'm walking through the lobby, and she's on a hotel bed, and they're moving her from elevator to elevator. And I said, what's going on? She said, I'm not doing so well. And I said, well, I'll come after work. And she said, no, I don't want you to come anymore. I said, really? I said, why? She said, I just don't think you should come And then she died a week later. So
You know what's interesting? Your eyes are watery, and so I think that you're feeling that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I get it.
What happened was when Marlon Brando died and Tony Franciosa died, something in her, it was like she just accepted that her peers were all gone.
Yes.
And she just kind of would tell me, I'm just waiting it out kind of thing.
It's hard to be the last of the Mohicans.
And she had lost, she had lost her teeth throughout time, and they had given her teeth that didn't work right. So then she didn't like them, so she didn't want to eat. So then she didn't enjoy food anymore. So she just kept shrinking away, and I just kept saying, I know what you're doing. You're just not eating intentionally. No, it just doesn't taste good. But I just think sometimes people just decide,
They've had enough.
Well, they've just done it all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was nothing left that she had to look forward to, really.
Right.
I mean, I remember one day she said, I made them drive me, I took a drive up Sunset Boulevard today. I said, what'd you think? She said, I didn't recognize it. It didn't look like the Sunset Boulevard I know. Because she, her memory of Sunset was
William Holden floating in the
Dean
pool.
racing her on his motorcycle playing chicken with her and Marilyn in a car. That was, something, so it's then she's seeing everything the way she saw it now, and it just,
It was difficult to watch the end of the studio system too, and she was part of that system. So they all watched the studio system decay and evaporate, and so the machines of yesterday that made the golden era of Hollywood and the greatest films that we know, and the studios that employed all of these people religiously, so they didn't really have to think about anything. They were just given great opportunity after great opportunity, and the people that were choosing these scripts didn't always have their best interest in mind, but typically there were a lot of good projects in play. And when all that just dried up and went away, I mean, there was true dismay on people's faces. I mean, I talked to Jimmy Stewart about it. I talked to many different people who just were like, Fred Astaire said to me, I didn't know what to do, because my whole life I had just gone from film to film and did what I wanted to do.
I think that's what her friend was saying. He's like,
that's
her
right.
whole life has been being famous, and now
so if I'm not
she has nothing to look forward to.
And if I'm not going to do that, if I'm not going to do what I've loved to do for my whole life, then what is the point of being here? Now, in my mother's case, she had live performing, but many of these people didn't do that.
Yeah.
My mother went into live performing to make her happy, and then when she couldn't hold her pitch, she knew she didn't want to do live performing anymore, and that was really led to just a few more years of her sticking it out more for Carrie and I, but didn't want to, had felt like the joy had left the art.
Well, I think the one thing that I loved about Shelley, which is what I love about Debbie when I read her books and read your book, is that they both came from a world of, at least those two, Shelley never was doing it for fame. She really had a love for getting a character, creating, dissecting that was part of her. She did it with people. She liked to find out about you and dissect who you were and stuff. And so
part
I
of the
think
character development.
Yeah, and I think the
Yeah.
parts, because she was an acting teacher, I think the parts with her just were like that. It never came down to, I need to be the most famous person in the room, but she was like, I need people to recognize how good I know I am.
Yeah.
And that was just something that she knew, and she was not going to let anybody discount her being a woman or anything else. She said that all the time, like, it was a man's world, but I let him know I was not going to be walked over.
Oh, yeah.
Because her and Sinatra went at it during the filming of their movie, and they almost fist fought. It had to be separated. But then when his son died, she said, first thing I thought was, I have to send him flowers, even though we hate each other's guts. If this happened to me, as a parent.
Yeah.
And then he reached out to her and said, thank you. I'm sorry we've had this 50-year-old beef that we can let go
wow.
of now.
Yeah, yep.